I just put a picture of a model in my family photos, which in hindsight, I think my girlfriend might have a problem with, but we're not going to tell her. What's up, my friends? My name is Pi. Welcome to SR Lounge. If you're new here, this is your place for no-nonsense photography education, and I always give the disclaimer. I use the term no-nonsense sort of loosely. Today, we're talking about export hacks or export preset hacks specifically for Lightroom Classic. These are things that are going to speed up your overall workflow, make things just easier when it comes to exporting images. So let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to get started by pressing Control-Shift-E or Command-Shift-E to bring up the export dialog. And no, the shortcut is not one of the hacks. But here is number one. Setting up Lightroom to prompt us for a specific folder upon export while still using the subfolder option. Let me explain what that means. So I like to set up my presets to basically follow an export workflow, and specifically the two settings that I use most is exporting for portfolio versus 2K or web-based images. You might export for 4K images, whatever it is, right? But these are basically two different resolution settings that I have saved out. One is going to export and it's going to be ready for print or portfolio usage. One is going to export, it's going to be shrunk down to 2000 pixels on the long edge, sharpened for screen, all of that. Those are going to be saved out as different presets, and each of those are going to use the function put in subfolder. But notice this, if I have my desktop selected for this specific folder option, and I go ahead and select and check off both of these so I can choose to export to multiple, which we'll talk about in just a second. When I click export, it's going to go to my desktop and it's not going to prompt me necessarily each time where like I'd like those folders to go. And the issue is sometimes I want them to go to my desktop, but most of the time when I export, I want them to go to specific folders in my Google Drive or where my client stuff is, all that kind of stuff, right? But instead, this just goes directly to the desktop and it saves it out within my different subfolders. I want it to prompt me where to put these files. So instead, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to use a little hack. We're going to go back to the export dialog. And what I'm going to do is under specific folder, this export to option, I'm going to choose a specific folder that is not going to exist later. What I mean is this, if you choose folder later, it doesn't allow you to use the subfolder option, and that's why we can't use that here, right? So I want specific folder, but I'm going to choose a new folder, and I'm going to just designate on my desktop a new folder, and we're going to call it no exist. Why does it no exist? Because you'll find out in a moment it's going to no exist. And then I'm going to right click on the portfolio preset, click update, go to my 2K web preset. I'm going to do the exact same thing, select no exist, and then click update. And now watch. I'm going to this time go back to the desktop and delete the no exist folder. Now the folder literally no exist. It no exist. I'm going to select both of these now. And with those two select, I'm going to click export. And now what happens is Lightroom can't find that specific folder where it's supposed to go. So it asks me where I would like to save the images. And now I can select choose. And this time I can say, well, put them here. And no, I would not label it that. But I'm going to select put them here. I'm going to do the same thing for put them here. And now each time I export, Lightroom will maintain my folder structure, but it's going to ask me where I want those folders to essentially go, and that's going to be nice and handy dandy. So it's now completed it. If we go to put them here, you'll see that it maintains those subfolders. Great. So now let's go to hack number 2. Let's just talk real briefly about how to name, rename, as well as order your presets. So very simply, once you've created your preset and you've added it here, right? We know that we can add the preset, we can put it in a folder, and we give it a name. If you ever want to rename, all you're going to do is just right click on that preset. You can click rename, and if you want it to be in a certain order, I just use the 0, 1 kind of numbering system. You can go 01, 001, whatever you like, but just go 01, 02, 03 in the order that you want them, so that way it appears the exact way that you want it. And usually the way that I have mine set up is the stuff that I use typically the most. So portfolio, 2K web-based, 3K DNG, which I'm going to explain in just a moment. I also have specific ones that are going to designated places. So these first few are no exist presets basically, right? So these are ones that are going to prompt me on where I want it to go. But I do have presets set up that go specifically to certain places on my Google Drive. For example, when it comes to family photo exports, when it comes to full resolution or 2K web-based resolution images, I want them to go to the exact same places each time. So for those, I do have a specific folder designated, and I have their own presets designated, so it never asks me where I want those to go. I can just simply click from the menu. And the beautiful thing about this is once they're saved and in the proper order, if you right-click and go down to export, you can choose directly from the presets in this quick export menu. And if I said family 2K, it's automatically going to export and go to that folder without ever prompting me. I just put a picture of a model in my family photos, which in hindsight, I think my girlfriend might have a problem with, but we're not going to tell her. Moving on to number 3, I want you guys to create export presets based on variations of other presets. This just makes things a little more simple. So let's say I want a full resolution export, but maybe I want to set up to rename or do something, right? So what I would do is select a full resolution option, a preset that I already have selected. So all the quality settings, everything down here is really already dialed in. From there, I might say, well, this go around, I'm going to say choose folder later. I don't need to go to a subfolder. I do want to rename, and whatever settings I want to use, I can have that. I'm going to turn that off for now. But at that point, you're just going to click add and save it as a new preset. So rather than dialing in all the other things that remain the same, choose the preset that's closest and then create a new preset based on that, or create variations based on existing ones. It just saves a bit of time. Number 4, you've created a beautiful set of export presets that you absolutely love, but you have a laptop and you have other machines that you want to get these exports onto. I'm going to show you how to transfer those presets. All you're going to do is from the export dialog. Again, we get there by pressing Control-Shift-D or Command-Shift-D or pressing the export button, but you don't want to do that because you like your shortcuts. So from this side, you're just going to go ahead and right click on any of these presets, click Show in Explorer or Finder, whatever you have, and it's going to show you exactly where those presets are located. So here's the simple dealio. Press Control-A or Command-A, go ahead and right click those, and what I like to do is just compress these to a zipped folder, right? And you can call that folder just Export Presets. Whatever you want to call it is totally fine. I'm going to pop this onto the desktop for simplicity. And then what you're going to do is just go to your email and email it to yourself. So I actually need to do this because I'm heading to Puerto Rico soon. And I need my export presets on my laptop, my latest version of my export presets on my laptop. Go ahead and download them back to your whatever desktop. Open back up Lightroom and go to your export dialog. This is the easiest way to get back to the same place. All you're going to do is click any of those presets that you have currently set up, right click them and go Show and Explore, and then grab those presets from your desktop. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up a new window, go back to my desktop, grab these presets and throw them right back into this folder on the other computer. Now, of course, your other computer is going to have the exact same presets, but this is just an example, right? So use that same right click to find your presets, save them out. Use the same right click to find where they are on the other computer and then transfer them back in. Number 5 is to make sure that you're utilizing the export to multiple presets function that Lightroom has recently built in. So from the export dialog, just remember that you can now select multiple export presets, click export, and all of them at once will begin to happen. Now again, if you set them up nicely so that you have those different subfolders and you use the no exist function, it's going to prompt you each time, and you can choose a designated folder for each one that you export, and they'll all go to the kind of wherever you decide. Last but not least, number 6 is that Lightroom is also a DNG converter. This means If you ever feel like sharing kind of shrunk down raw files with friends, maybe for whatever purposes you have, maybe you want to send them to them so that they have the ability to edit them, maybe you want to share raw files with somebody else, share exercise files, whatever it is, you can shrink them down to DNGs. Now, previously we thought that, well, to shrink down our DNGs, we need to use Adobe DNG Converter, right? So I actually have that installed as well. But we don't. We can actually do all of that directly from Lightroom. So what you're going to do is bring up the export dialog once again. This go around, you're going to go down and image format, you're going to select DNG. From here, you can choose the same camera. You don't need to change anything compatibility-wise. But I can actually remove the JPEG preview. And if I click lossy compression, I can actually reduce the file size of my raw file to whatever I want. So say, for example, I just want to send 2000 pixel long edge DNGs to whomever. Well, I can do that, and I can say, I'm going to put this just on the desktop just as an example, and we'll save this out as just DNG. And I'm going to click test DNG, okay? If I do that and press export, what was a 20 to 30 megabyte file, it now becomes 523 kilobytes. This makes it very easy to send raw files. And guess what? I can still open these in either Lightroom or I can open them in Adobe Camera Raw. And guess what? They're still raw files. So I can open these up in Adobe Camera Raw. As you see here, I can put them into Lightroom. I still have all of that raw functionality. In fact, if your settings were actually dialed in upon export, it will transfer those settings with it, as you see here, stored right into that DNG file. So that's it. That's 6 Lightroom export hacks. I hope these were useful for you guys. I hope it helps to kind of speed up workflow, gives you ideas, options, how to get your export presets wherever you want them to go. And check this out. We have just released our complete Lightroom Mastery course. So if you found this stuff useful, there is tons of information in that course. Everything you need to know, from raw processing to navigating Lightroom to all the different things, from going from no knowledge to complete mastery of development inside of Lightroom, is in that course. So check that out on srloungeworkshops.com. In addition, if you're not ready to jump into our courses or our visual flow presets or anything like that, if you just want more education, well, join us on our Lightroom education group on Facebook. It's completely free to join. It's a great place to ask questions, show off your work, and hobnob with your peers. Yes, I use that word. Okay, I'm gonna hobnob my way out of here. Bye.